right, welcome Lawrence. Woo! Woo! Welcome to the 2017 Mayoral Debate. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks to our candidates, not only for being here tonight, but for your continued public service, getting out there, promoting this good discourse about the future of our city. Thank you also to our panelists that are helping move this conversation forward. Just want to also welcome you guys here and thank you for being here. This is a great expression of democracy. This is what makes America a great place to live in, and this kind of enthusiasm, engagement is what makes Lawrence a great place to live and work in, and I think that your continued involvement will represent the future of this community as we continue to grow. A couple ground rules before we get started. We're going to ask folks to not raise your signs. Obviously, raise your voices, clap when you like ideas, but we want to contribute to good ideas, not necessarily to loudest voices in the room. And so thank you for contributing to that discourse. Also, if you can turn your cell phones on silent, that would be great, but don't turn them off because we want to hear from you throughout the debate. There are two different ways that you can pose questions to these candidates tonight. And we have a limited amount of time, so we won't necessarily be able to take all of them, but we're going to take about two of them. There are two ways. One, you can text 81010. That's the number. There's a lot of these pieces of paper going around. I'll say this again. That's the number, and at Mayoral D. That'll get you logged in under this app, and you can text your questions there. I'll say that again. Text this number, 81010, and the message at Mayoral D. This is an education software, so they're going to ask you if you're a student, a parent, or a teacher. You can choose whatever, but it'll just get you into the software. You can text your question there. You can also participate via Twitter. Our hashtag is Lawrence Debate. You can follow us on Twitter and you can contribute your questions there. They're going to get up to me and we're going to contribute 2 participant questions. As we get into this, I want to introduce our panelists that are going to help lead the night. Joanna DePena is the founder and executive director of Touch Not Scholars. Elsa Sanchez is the vice president of the Tower Hill Neighborhood Association. Noemi Custodio-Lora is the vice president for the Lawrence campus of Northern Essex Community College. Wow, you should run for mayor, Noemi. And Keith Eddings is a reporter for the Eagle Tribune, one of our sponsors here tonight. I should mention also that Northern Essex is another sponsor, and I'm here representing the Lawrence Partnership. We're a public-private partnership promoting economic development here in the city of Lawrence. We feel very strongly that strong leadership is the key to a strong economy and a strong future, and so we're thrilled by the amount of people that are running for this seat, and we're thrilled for your engagement to make sure that we're choosing the next leader, not just administrator, leader of our community that shows judgment, character, and represents us all. So we're going to jump right into this. Here are the ground rules. I mentioned this to the candidates earlier tonight. We're going to have introductions, 30 seconds each. We're going to have a series of questions interspersed with some community questions, as well as some questions from a Lawrence High School student. 60 seconds each for those, and then we're going to have concluding remarks at 30 seconds each. We're going to try to get everybody through the night pretty quickly. We're going to ask the candidates to be mindful of the time limits, and we're going to try to get you guys as much information as possible. So, shall we jump right into this? You guys ready?
Yeah.
Are you guys ready? Yeah. All righty. Here we go. So, first question, we're going to turn it over to Keith to jump right into this.
Are we going to have opening statements?
Oh. And by that, we're going to start this off with opening statements. We'll start right with Mayor Rivera being closest to me.
Thank you, Derek, and thank you to Northern Essex Community College and the rest of the folks who put this together. My name is Dan Rivera. I'm the mayor here in the city of Lawrence, but I'm a Lawrence kid. I grew up in Lawrence. My mom came here when I was 5 years old. I'm a kid who went through the Lawrence public school system. And at the end of the day, I got a chance to get a good education because I went out to the Army and fought in Desert Storm. Came back to serve my community. The last 4 years, we have tried to make Lawrence safer and a better place to live by including more police officers on our streets and fixing our streets and parks and our schools. I am not done yet. I feel the same frustration that you feel every day, and we feel that if we get another term, that we can go back and keep fighting to make Lawrence a better place to live.
Thank you. Mr. Maldonado.
Never before has our city faced so many issues and concerns than the ones that we are facing today. And never before has this city needed someone with the strong leadership, the strong educational background, the strong supervisory experience, and the strong commitment to the community. I've been here 39 years or plus. I grew up in New York, Brooklyn, got educated in New York and also in Massachusetts with a master's in education.
That's about 30 seconds, Mr.
And
Maldonado.
I've been here serving the community for 39 years, and I'm looking forward to doing so as the next mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Green.
My name is William Green. I grew up in Lawrence. I graduated from Lawrence High School in 1993, and I've served the city. I have served the city as a law enforcement professional. I understand from the street level what this city needs for public safety. I'm not going to pretend to be anything other than a professional in law enforcement, and public safety is my focus. That's what this city needs at this time, and I am the mayor for the time that Lawrence is facing now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nieves.
I was born in New York and grew up in Puerto Rico, came back here in 1982, and wow, there's a lot of beautiful people in this city. But somebody has to do something for those beautiful people, not only you guys that have been around for a long time, but also the people that are growing up that need a better community. Lawrence is a wonderful city, and it would be better 10, 20 years from now, but we have to start today. That's why Ruben Nieves is running for mayor, and I'm looking for your support. God bless.
My name is Paul Mallett, and I'm running for mayor, and I'd love to hammer out some groundbreaking solutions for the city. I, unlike other candidates, didn't grow up in Lawrence. I grew up in Milton, Massachusetts, and coming here from a different town, I think it gives me better perspective that there are serious problems in this community. I think when you lived here all your life, you kind of think some of the issues that you're facing become the norm. Quickly, I did receive a degree from Boston University, and I'm currently a financial analyst. I have a wife and two sons.
Mr.
And
Mount, about 30 seconds.
Definitely would love to make this city better, and please vote for me.
Thanks. Okay. So we're gonna jump into panelist questions, and again, if you have questions, please feel free to text them through the app or to tweet them. Go ahead, Keith.
To start, we'd like to ask all the candidates, including the incumbent, to assess Mayor Rivera's first 4 years in office, or his 4 years in office, I should say, and to be specific about what you think his greatest accomplishment is, if he has one, and what his greatest failure is, if he has one.
So this one, we're going to start with Mayor Rivera, and then we're going to work our way down. With each ensuing question, we'll have a different candidate start off, okay? Mayor Rivera, do you want to reflect on Keith's question to start? 60 seconds.
Yeah, 60 seconds for 4 years of work, I think it's really tough, but just to put it in perspective. But I think we start at the beginning, and that's that we have had such an impact in rebuilding our public safety departments. That's 23 new police officers. That's $4.1 million in the fire department. That's 15 new police vehicles. It's making the places where they work better. When I first got here, some of the firehouses had to heat their space with the ovens of the kitchens. That's not the case today. Today, police officers are riding around in vehicles that are worthy of their service. Today we have 23 new police officers, so they're not running from issue to issue, creating problems within the community. They're actually doing community policing. I think that's my greatest accomplishment. I think that when we look about a failure, I just think we work hard every day to make this place better, and there's so many places that we could have done more. But every day we just think about the things that we could accomplish, and that's part of the reason why we're trying to get another 4 terms, because we can work together to deal with those things that we still have yet to deal with.
That's a minute. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Maldonado, 60 seconds to you on the mayor's greatest
There's no
accomplishments and
question
failures.
that our system has failed the citizens of Lawrence. The increase in crime, violence, the gangs, the lack of involvement of the police department with the citizens of our city has made our citizens feel completely scared. They don't want to step out. They are afraid that they will be shot. They are afraid that they will be beat up. And obviously, unless we change the relationship of the police department with the citizens, the crime is going to continue increasing. The fear of our citizens is not going to go away, and that has to change. So I'm hoping that a new administration will review what we have, review our failures, review our future and what we need to do, and hopefully take the necessary action to correct the problems that we already have.
Thank you. It's just over a minute. Mr. Green.
Okay, so the last 4 years, I think that's going to be impossible to find something that the Mayor Rivera, has not had a success at. It's impossible. It's a numbers game, and there are going to be things that he does and will have done well. For example, I'm a friend of the environment, and the mayor planted trees. I'm happy about that. But when we talk about failures, it's not about how I feel, how happy I am, and what I like. It's about the shooting that was just reported to me on Jackson and Elm Street tonight as I was sitting up in that corner. That's a failure. It's the drugs that have crept in and invaded our once safe and secure neighborhoods. That's a failure, and that's a priority, because if we're not secure, then there is no progress anywhere else. And that's my assessment of Mayor Rivera's 4 years.
Mr. Nieves.
I want to thank Mayor Rivera for the 4 years that he has given, because I always say that anybody that is willing to sacrifice family, friends, private life for even strangers she doesn't know deserve to be recognized for the service. And I think a lot of wonderful things have happened in the city of Lawrence through the years. However, the Bible says, where there's no vision, the people will perish. We need to have a different type of vision, not thinking about what's going to happen in the next 4 years, but long term, what's happening in the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Somebody has to start thinking about a legacy, doing something for those that are not even here today, but making Lawrence the greatest city that we can find. Not the statistics that is the lowest in whatever, or the crime, or all the things that we hear. No, it's time that we start celebrating that we have a place that we're comfortable living, enjoying, and working together. It's time for change in the city of Lawrence. Vote for Ruben Nieves.
Mr. Mallett.
Well, I think the statistics actually will outline pretty clearly what the greatest failure was. It's crime. In the prior administration, there were 23 homicides. In the current administration, there are 23 homicides. In the prior administration, there were 68 rapes. In the current administration, there's 96. Violent crimes have actually gone up. And another failure would be jobs. In 2015, Polar Tech laid off about 200 people, and they went down south. And it's something that we're seeing in the other communities as well, such as Andover and Phillips. The reason they went down south were cited by the Executive Smith. He had said that for a few reasons: regulation, energy costs, and the cost of lower wages. And it's funny, back in 1954, John F. Kennedy had written an article in The Atlantic stating that there were thousands of jobs moving down south. For these same exact reasons. We've had 63 years, everyone, 63 years to learn from our mistakes. We need to wake up and start doing something about it and learning from our mistakes, and I can do that for you as Mayor Paul Mallett.
Thank you, and thanks everybody to keeping pretty close to that 1 minute timer. To give you guys a heads up, our good friend David Joyner from the Eagle Tribune is going to give you that when you have 10 seconds left. You see, David? Raise your hand, David, so they can all see you. So with a 10-second warning, he's going to flash that card to you, and that'll give you guys a sense to close up, okay? This next question is going to start off with Mr. Maldonado.
The state has had veto power over spending at City Hall since 2010. Is the city ready to resume control over its spending? If not, why not? If so, how will you make it happen?
It is obvious that our school system has failed our students, that we need to improve education, that the state has taken control because of those failures. It is obvious that we have expended way too much money in areas that shouldn't have been spent, like wasting more than $3 million in legal fees. It is obvious that we need to take control of our expenditures. It is obvious that we need to take control of the money that we raise and how we raise them, and that we need to find other source of income, not just on the back of the homeowners, but we need to find other sources. And obviously, I'm going to look for that. There are many ways that we can raise money, that we can control expenditures, and that we can bring our city under budgetary control without exploiting our citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Green.
So my plan specifically to address the city finances is I do welcome the presence of the oversight, state oversight. The reason is because, as I already stated, I am a law enforcement professional. I am not going to pretend to be a financial expert. I am not. But there's also another thing. I would like to explore transitioning so that Lawrence has more total exclusive control, but create some sort of structure that will remain after I'm out of office so that there's continued oversight. I think that the nature of politics lends itself to being conducive for corruption. And one of the things that I plan to do is not just look at my term, but what do I leave in terms of security for the people that are going to follow after me. And I'm not going to be able to do that on my own, and we're going to need the state assistance through that process.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Mr. Nieves.
Part of my background is I have a bachelor's in accounting and finance. I have an MBA, a graduate certificate in human resources, and I have been instructor in different colleges and universities through the years. I have been a practitioner of what is management and leadership. I became a preacher when I was 16, but I was also an office manager in an auto center when I was 17. Therefore, I have my entire life into what is management, leadership, accounting, finance, and all the things that we need in this city. However, I don't plan to do it alone. I think that the school committee, the city council, and the people, you ladies and gentlemen that are there and that are not here, those of you have to participate. We need to make Lawrence great, but a mastermind is what does it, not one brain. Doesn't matter how smart it is. It takes a whole village. It takes a whole community. It takes all of us working together and not fighting each other. It's time to change Lawrence. That's why Ruben Nieves is finally running for mayor of the city.
Mr. Mallett.
As far as dealing with finances, I think it's just to use common sense. Right now, the city is being threatened to lose federal funding because it's a sanctuary city. I, as a mayor, would no longer allow this to be a sanctuary city, to preserve the federal funding. The thing is, there are a lot of hardworking people and a lot of hardworking immigrants, including my wife and her family, that had to go through the proper procedures. And I just don't think that it's fair that there are hardworking immigrants who have to go through those procedures that really were put into place to protect everyone, immigrant or non-immigrant, in this community. Because 9/11 did happen, and we have to be realistic about this and understand it. It's something that we have to do. So federal funding, I would just use common sense and follow the rules. And another thing is just listen to what the people need and provide them what they need in the amounts that they need. You know, just to use common sense would be the big thing.
Okay, thanks. And to the audience, too, we love your cheers, but try to keep the booze to a minimum. Again, this is an ideas festival. We're trying to bring out good ideas. Our next question, we'll start with Mr. Green.
Do I get a shot?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I forgot we didn't start with you. Yep.
That's okay.
Go for it. 1 minute.
So you're going to hear a lot of words up here. You're actually going to hear a lot of loud words up here, too. And I think that the important about leadership is not just what you can say, is what you do. And so, yeah, I am ready to take back the financial control of our city, and I think they should let us do that. You know why? Because when Willie Lantigua borrowed money, created corruption in our government, when he wasted time and energy and efforts and made us the laughingstock of the Commonwealth, I was the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee. We found money to put police officers back on the street and to put firefighters back on the street. We did that despite the noise coming from the corner office. In the time I've been mayor, we've had 2 increases in our bond authorization because they have trust in the mayor's office. We've had the first capital improvement plan in a generation. Can you believe we had not had a capital improvement plan in a generation, planning to pay for sidewalks and trees? And lastly, again, the leadership piece is important. Anybody can point out the problems. They're easy to do, especially when you've grown up here. You know what the problems are. The question is, how do you resolve them? And I've been spending 4 years doing that.
Thank you. So we're going to turn our next question over. Joanna, question number 3. This one will start with Mr. Green.
The state has had total control over the city's public schools since 2011. Receiver Jeff Riley's contract to run the schools for the state expires in 2018. Should it be renewed, or is the city ready to resume control of its schools? If not, why not? If so, how would you make it happen?
The first thing that we need to do is we need a transition team in place now. 2018 is when? So we need a transition team in place, developing a transition plan so that Lawrence can take control of their school systems. It is our responsibility to provide culturally relevant, holistic education to the kids that live in our city. We cannot do that when we have a state receiver overseeing our public schools that is detached in every sense of the way, to the point where I don't even know if there's an existence of a transition plan or a short list of members for that transition team. That's alarming. I don't want to see another extension to the contract. It may be unavoidable, but the team needs to be in place and a plan needs to be worked on yesterday.
Mr. Nieves.
As I said before, education is in my blood. I started teaching in church when I was 14. My dad was a minister. And by the way I started was I told my class, the same age, I said, the teacher didn't show up. I said, sit down, I'm going to start teaching. That initiative that I took when I was 14, we need to take now, at whatever age we are. It's not a secret, right? But it is important that we take seriously the matters of education in the city. I don't know how the last 2 administrations has not done what is needed to do to give participation to the people, get the control of not only the school system, but the education and the training that the people of the city of Lawrence need. So it's beyond, I mean, you know how many millions of dollars go just in transportation and adult education? It's the same as the police budget. similar in amount, over $10, $11 million. So that means that we need to do what we have to do. It is important that we do it, as Mr. Green said, now.
Mr. Mallett.
Well, I think we definitely should continue to have the current receivership that we have right now. I think one of the big things, too, that I would push for would be reading and early childhood education. They actually had done a study at Duke University stating that those who were involved in pre-education did much better off. There were some much higher percentage of students that weren't in special education and much higher percentages of students that weren't being held back later on in life. We need to invest in our children when they're young, and we need to definitely push reading. Reading is so important. If you can read, you can do anything. You can do your taxes, you can read the manual to install that desk when you get home. The sky's the limit. And it's something that we really need to push, and that's what I would do.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. I would start by saying we lost control of our schools because of the lack of leadership by William Lantigua. And I was the only one 4 years ago who stepped up and said we need to change the leadership. Many people who were running for office supported the mayor then, and many people worked for the mayor then. And so when we talk about what's next for education, we got to make sure that people who are running for office to be the mayor aren't cut of the same cloth from the people who were the mayor who caused the problem to begin with. They started this. So the thing I will say is, it's not when we're going to get it, if not whether or not we should get it back, it's when we're going to get it back. They're leaving. They are leaving, and we have to be prepared to take it over. That's why I say that I'll impanel a commission of former teachers and parents and students to talk about what's next. How do we elect our next school board? Do we go back to district or do we go at large? Do we do some appointed, do we do some elected? But listen, anybody can tell you education is important. Anyone can do that. You'll hear it here. What they can't tell you is how they're going to keep the great success that we've had under this receivership for the next 4 years.
Mr. Maldonado.
We want to make people believe that these elections are about Lantigua and the mayor. This election is not about them. It's about us, our city. It is about the failure of a system that was not doing what they were supposed to do for our students. And the state had to take control because we were not doing the job. Not the previous administration, but all the previous administrations that were there, they were not doing the job. In my conversation with Superintendent Riley, he indicated that our city is ready to take our educational system back. But we need to learn our failures in the past, and we need to learn on our successes now. So I asked Mr. Riley whether he was willing to sit down with the administration, all the new administration, so that we can determine what was done to make this system better.
That's about 1 minute,
and how
Mr.
we can
Maldonado.
continue doing that. Thank you.
We're going to hear one more question from the panelists before we bring up a Lawrence High student to ask a question of their own.
The city now has a capital budget from the past decade. What is your opinion of the priorities set forth in the document, and what do you think is the city's greatest infrastructure need?
Okay. So starts with you, Mr. Nieves.
Cities have what it's called, and it's a fund accounting, so it's an accounting that should balance, and there's an operational and then capital expenditures. Those should be planned ahead of time, looking especially at the safety and security of the people that are here, to education and those needs that are imminent that we take care of. We all know our priorities and the complaints, why people are upset out there. Is it the snow, the parking? What is it that bothers people, and what is it that we're not taking care of? That's why I said in my initial comment that we need to have a long-term plan to create a legacy and leave it. It is important that we look at those priorities of what benefits the people and not specific interests or individuals. It's the people of Lawrence, the youth, the kids, the elderly, all the residents, and not to abuse the homeowners. Therefore, we need to have a plan in order to take advantage of the capital expenditures, and for that, the people should participate. Thank you.
Mr. Mallett?
There are a couple, but number one definitely would be housing. There's a housing crunch in this city, and I think everybody can feel that. And two would be the fire department, because there are some buildings there that have been neglected. Those would be the two things I would focus on.
Mr. Mayor, a minute to you.
I take personal pride in the capital improvement plan. I think it reflects the needs of the city. Schools, 2 brand new schools online to be designed and built. Brand new boilers we had the old high school boiler system was an 8-boiler system, and they had cannibalized it down to the last boiler. And today we have a brand new boiler in Lawrence High School that holds so many students. The police department, another place where we spend a lot of capital improvement dollars. There are times that the communication systems for the police department goes down. They have to call back all the police officers. That's going to change after this year's capital improvement. The fire department, $4.1 million into the capital improvement plan that went to 3 brand new trucks. We've done that. We know what the priorities are. And how about our library? For the first time in 15 years, you can go to the library in the summertime and you're not going to worry about passing out from heat exhaustion. None of the people up here have a clue about the inside needs of the capital of our city, because all they want to do is point out the negatives. And I'm here to tell you, we are on the right path. We're actually going to do sidewalks and trees next year.
That's about a minute, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Maldonado, a minute.
As an architect, nobody understands better than me what the needs are of capital improvement. Nobody understands better the fact that our water system failed, and most of you received letters that we were drinking water with lead, and that we were told not to boil the water because it would be dangerous to our health and the health of our children. But let me tell you something. What is the use of improving structure? What is the use of improving buildings? What is the use of improving streets when the safety of our people is in jeopardy? When there are people that are unemployed and cannot make ends meet, when there is mismanagement of our resources, financial resources. So why are we talking about buildings and streets when people are afraid to walk on the streets? Why?
Mr. Green.
The capital improvement plan goes out to, what, 2021, next 4 years. When I reviewed it, I didn't see a police department on there. We need a new building. One of the questions that comes up as we engage in conversations for a new police department is this: where's the money going to come from? That's always a question. Well, guess what, folks? William Green is a Republican. Who holds all the cards right now? Who has all the chips? Think about it. Politics is a sophisticated street hustle. I've been a cop, right? You think that we're going to get shown love from the federal government by running to Washington with a lawsuit? Or are we going to find a way to work it out? Have a conversation, say, this is who we are Lawrence, and this is what we want, this is what we like, and this is how we want to live, freely. That's the solution and the path that I'd like to take. I want a new police station, and nobody's going to tell me no until they do tell me no, and that's going to be in Washington. Vote for William Green, folks.
Thank you. We're going to hear now from the future of our community. Vladimir Guerrero is a junior at Lawrence High School. He's enrolled in the early college programming at Northern Essex Community College. He's the kind of person we're all up here working for. So Vladimir's going to ask a couple questions, one now and one in a little bit. So go for it.
My first question is, so 28.4% of people in Lawrence live below the poverty rate, compared to 11.6% in the rest of Massachusetts. What plan do you guys have to change this?
Do you want to say it again a little bit more into the mic, Vladimir?
Sure. 24.4% of people in Lawrence live below the poverty rate, compared to 11.6% in the rest of Massachusetts. What plan do you guys have for changing this?
Thank you.
Everybody have the question okay? Okay. Mr. Mallet, this one's going to start with you. Still a minute to respond.
Sure. I think that's an excellent question. Speaking with people, what I've found is that there's a lot of enthusiasm with job training, and unfortunately, there are certain segments of the population that aren't poor enough to qualify for that job training, but they're not rich enough to pay for it on their own. There's a big section of people that are in this middle, and what we need to do is we need to address that, and we need to focus on that segment of the population. Another thing too would be, as far as getting poverty back, would be increasing jobs. And in order to do that, you got to listen to what businesses want and needs. They want tax breaks, they want decreased regulation on things, and they want less regulation. So we need to cater to their needs to increase the job flow in this city. And if we can do that, get the jobs going, get those workshops going, accessible to everyone, we will lower that poverty rate.
Thank you.
So, on my first month being mayor, I had an invitation for a meeting from the president of Regis College. She said she wanted to come to Lawrence and have a conversation with me about how we can expand Regis College in Lawrence, bring nursing programs and other health programs to the city. And I thought she was just talking about like a satellite thing and we're just gonna have a couple people. Today, a girl lives on Park Street, can go to Northern Essex, can graduate from Lawrence High School, go to Northern Essex Community College for 2 years, and the following 2 years after that, take a course in nursing and graduate with an undergraduate degree from Regis College. And she never has to leave the city to do that. I did that. I gotta tell you, you can't go before the board of trustees of a university and talk real loud and be smart and snarky. You gotta have the understanding of what the city needs and be able to say, as a Lawrence kid, this is my experience. And this is the success we've had. So more programs like that. We're going to do more of that. We're going to go after four-year colleges to come to Lawrence. And on top of that, more adult vocational education. People who come here with skills, they can get the vocational education they need, they can get better jobs.
Mr. Maldonado.
The job market is changing. That is obvious that people are losing jobs by the thousand because they are not prepared. A few years back, the Greater Lawrence Technical School used to offer retraining in the evening for adults. People who lost their jobs because they didn't have the right skills. We need to get that back in track. I understand that Northern Essex and other colleges are trying to catch up on that and that they are creating programs that are going to help our people who are losing their jobs. Nevertheless, we know that technology is changing, that the biochemistry industry is increasing, and that we need to provide new and different training in those areas so that we can place people to work. So, we need to change with the job market. And the most important thing is that we need to place our youngsters and our adults into a new job market. Thank you.
Mr. Green.
Okay, so first, I forget your name, but...
Vladimir.
I'm sorry?
Vladimir.
Vladimir. I think Vladimir deserves a round of applause because I was nervous coming up here, and here's a high school kid that got up here and stood and addressed us all.
Mr. Green, you can start your minute over after that. Thank you for that.
I was a little nervous. No matter how many times you do it, you never get used to it. The question was about poverty. First, we need to understand poverty. What are the factors that come in that contribute to why we have such a high poverty rate? First of all, language. I'm going to start with language. How many people in this room know someone who does not speak fluent English? Okay. How many people know someone in this room that does not have papers? Anyone? Yeah, me too. So the thing is when you factor those elements into the poverty equation, it throws everything off. What we need to do is we need to give people opportunity. And I'm going to tell you, we need, you know what, in schools, and this is really how I'm going to approach it, okay? We need to show our kids and teach them, don't make fun of your parents when they're struggling with English. Learn together as families, and don't anyone tell me it doesn't happen, because it does. We need to build up the confidence and promote opportunity from within, and that's my approach.
Mr. Nieves.
Ya no hay que salir de la casa para aprender. You don't even have to leave home to learn. There's a lot of online education, so I'm glad that we don't have to leave Lawrence, but we'll take advantage of what is there. But job creation is a must. It has to happen, okay? We have to make the city attractive. The image of the city is impacting and making it attractive for employers and for people willing to work. I have heard people, I have been an HR manager in companies. I teach HR management in college, and I know the troubles and the struggles of companies trying to relocate and making it attractive. The image of the city has to change, and we also have to create entrepreneurial opportunities. I have a regional approach. Even when my slogan is Lawrence first, that's what it is, Lawrence first, but not Lawrence only. We have to work together. If we create job opportunities, education, and entrepreneurial opportunities, and I'm glad that Northern Essex and your program, you're doing a terrific job. You guys, all the ones that are doing something for Lawrence, bless you. Muchas bendiciones. Gracias.
Thank you all. And again, thank you to Vladimir. You all will hear from him again in a couple minutes. We're going to turn this back to the panelists. Keith's going to start with another question. This will start with Mayor Rivera.
The number of violent crimes committed in Lawrence during Rivera's first administration is down 9% compared to former Mayor Lantigua's administration. That's according to statistics from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Crimes against property are down 32%. But the city's overall crime rate, and its crimes per 100,000 people, remains relatively high. In recent year, the last year for which statistics were available, the FBI's reported that the city's violent crime rate remained at nearly 3 times the statewide rate. And it said the rate of crimes against property in Lawrence was about 1.5 times the rate for the state. What would you do to lower it? What is your crime fighting plan?
It's a big question. You guys catch it at all, or do you want to hear it again?
I'm ready.
Okay. Jump into it, Mr. Rivera.
And so, I consider myself a wartime mayor. Never before, since the crack epidemic, has there been this big of a heroin crisis, a drug crisis in our community. People are going to talk to you like they're subject matter experts, like they understand how it is to fight and be successful at crime in our streets. The reality is that what we fight every day, sometimes double-digit arrests on drug use and drug dealing. That's not counting the everyday arrests and drug dealings. The stuff that they're going to talk to you and criticize me about is the symptom of the heroin epidemic that we haven't seen. It's even bigger than the crack epidemic. So yeah, I've been a wartime mayor. And thank God, because I was a veteran of the Desert Storm and I know how to fight during war. But we're not going to be successful with these problems until we have more help from above, state and federal government. But I will tell you, property crimes in people's homes, property crimes are down. And yeah, it matters to talk about the buildings. You gotta be able to chew gum and walk at the same time. Because if we don't do the little things, the crime will take over our city. And we're doing both, and we're doing both successfully. And it's important to have more police on the street, which, by the way, we did 23 in 4 years. An amazing
That's about
feat.
1 minute.
And a diverse force at that. Thank you.
Mr. Maldonado, a minute to you, same question.
Numbers doesn't tell the truth about the reality of what is going on in our city. When we found the body of Paulino by the river, that shock really shocked everyone in the city. The homeless, the needles that we find in the parks, the drug transactions that we see on a daily basis in our neighborhoods, that is the real image of our city. And the shame of the whole thing is that we have allowed that to run out of control. To say that we have done everything that we could have done is not true. To say that we have extended communication between the police department and our citizens to work together and fight the crime that we are facing, that is not taking place. That is not taking place.
That's about a minute.
We need more answers, and we need more actions.
Mr. Green, 1 minute to you.
All right. So, wartime mayor? No, he's been a mayor during wartime. I've been the one that's calling this war. I've been the one that's signaling it and saying it's coming, and I've been doing it for years. That's not a joke. 500 arrests. I interrupted a homicide in progress and saved someone. Do I need any more credibility than that? I work diligently. I remain vigilant, even in crisis, which is what we're in now. Mayor Rivera said crime will take over. It's pretty close to a total takeover. I don't know. If our kids can't play in our parks, then something has invaded and taken over. So if you're looking for someone who understands that the UCRs are a limited set of numbers that get reported to the FBI, and that there is a broader set of data that we can look at, because if you contact Lieutenant Razzo and Lieutenant Mangan from the Lawrence Police Department, they'll tell you how well I know that system, Mr. Mayor. William Green from Mayor.
Mr. Nieves.
See, I have had the privilege not only of leading the Greater Lawrence Family Health Center into financial recuperation back in 1982, and being the only minority to be the chairman of the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce 25 years ago, and having an office in the State House appointed by Bill Well 25 years ago, and so on and so forth, working with 35, 40 different organizations. But the privilege is not the titles or being there, it's the fact that I have been able to interact with people, even as a psychotherapist at the psychological center, talking to the people and finding out why is it that they have the problems that they have with substances. Why is it that the behavior is happening? And what we know is definitely more than statistics, we have a reality. The problem is not what happened with one incident or the other. It's that those are signaling trends that we are not taking control of. And we must do that now. So it's time for change now.
I'll give a couple of examples of some of the serious problems that we're facing. Back in earlier this year, in March, there was a fentanyl bust, huge bust. One of the individuals involved in it was actually laughing about the number of times that he had come back here and re-entered illegally because he knew he could. Marta Rivera, 2015, she was killed by 2 illegal immigrants when a bullet went through her ceiling and shot her and killed her when they were investigating these illegal immigrants on a drug bust. You know that 92% of MS-13 gangs are here illegally. One thing I would do is I would end illegal immigration.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to move to another question, this one by Joanna, and incidentally, this is a question, thank you, we've had almost a dozen questions from the audience already, so keep them coming. This question is, or some iteration, has come 3 times already. Oh, I'm sorry, this is Elsa's. Yes, but this question's already come 3 times from the audience, so it'll be well received. Go for it.
In Lawrence, the median rent has risen well beyond what most families can afford. What would you do to meet the needs of city housing?
Can you repeat it again, please?
In Lawrence, the median rent has risen well beyond what most families can afford. What would you do to meet the city's housing needs?
First of all, we need to build more housing, but not just build housing, we need to build affordable housing. Rent has increased substantially, primarily because of one thing, because of the increase of taxes in our city. A lot of people are saying that we are not paying our fair share of taxes, and they try to compare us with Andover, and North Andover and Methuen, when the average income of people in Lawrence is about $38,000 versus $80,000 or $75,000 in other cities and towns. We need to find other means of income to the city that doesn't have to rely on the back of the property owners, so that the rent cannot keep increasing. We are pushing people out of their own apartments because they cannot afford to pay the rent. And we cannot continue allowing that. So we need to find other sources that is going to allow our city to reduce taxes, get other sources of income, and at the same time ask the landlords to reduce their rent so that people can live decently in a city that has given them an open door.
Mr. Green.
Well, first, it's a complex issue that I have been engaged in conversation with a number of people, trying to get a handle on it, trying to really understand all of the complexities. Rent control we're not going to get. One thing, though, is I hope that Mr. Maldonado leads by example should he win in lowering the rents of rental units around the city. But but one of the things that I was exploring was a tax, but a tax only on strictly investment rental property. Anyone that owns property in Lawrence, that lives in Lawrence, would be exempt. Anyone that is an owner-occupied, obviously, rental property would be exempt. But the predatory real estate investors that are coming in because they know they can jack up the rents and there's really no accountability, I'm going to be at the gate and I'm going to protect our interests.
About 1 minute. Thank you. Mr. Nieves.
See, we have a situation in this city with the panhandling. You think it doesn't have to do, well, it doesn't. And people say we have to get rid of those people. Well, there's a Supreme Court decision that say you cannot do that. The same as with rent control. That's history. You cannot have it. So what do we have to do? As Mr. Maldonado said, we need to plan affordable housing. But wait, we always talk in the future. We have to. Why wasn't that done in this term, in the last 4 years or the last 20 years? It's time that we look at the long term and not keep planning, but start doing something for the people that need to be taken care of. It's not for tomorrow. It's not for 20 years from now. Let's start today planning the future. Vote for Ruben.
Mr. Mallet.
You know, a lot of people talk about looking for ways to improve affordable, lower the rent in this city. But there's another darker side of the city. There are a lot of people in the city who don't even have an apartment, that are on the streets. There's only one shelter in this community. And unfortunately, the supply doesn't meet the demand. So as a mayor, I definitely would build another shelter. I know we had recently kicked them out of Tent City, We kick them out. You can kick them out. You can kick them out, but that ain't going to solve a problem. You're just going to move them to the park benches. And they're humans, and they should be treated with some level of dignity, so I would provide more shelter for them. That would be one thing. Another thing I would do, too, is I would look at the current system. Right now, there are cases where I personally know there are people on subsidized housing with a 3-bedroom apartment, and they live by themselves. What about the single mother with 2 children looking to find an apartment? It's not right. I would put an end to that. And I would negotiate with developers to make sure that they provide low-income housing, and if they do, they will get a tax break. I will do everything in my power to help provide
1 minute, Mr.
this
Mallett.
problem. Paul Mallett for mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
You gotta listen carefully. You really gotta listen carefully. Melissa wants us to ask nicely to lower the rent. Paul wants to put new homeless shelters in our community. I'm telling you what's happening today. 900 new units of housing are happening today. By the end of 2019, they're all gonna be built. We're gonna have half of them gonna be affordable in nature. But is it just affordable, or is it affordable to the middle class folks? Because affordable is below the poverty line, right? So look at what we're talking about, 900 of them, yes, in these 4 years. And secondly, we've talked to developers who just want to build in the mills, which I don't really enjoy. When I came, there was a bunch of them already licensed. They want to build in the mills. If you want to build in the mills, you got to give me apartments in the core, where people live in the neighborhoods, where there's empty lots and abandoned properties. It would be the easiest thing to say, oh, we're just going to tax the people who have investment grade policies. You don't take a genius to do that. It's just you can't do it. We've been doing this 8 years. All these people here are guessing. It's a dangerous conversation, folks. And so, yeah, we need to help the homeless folks. And I'd be glad to help North Andover, Methuen, and Andover host one, because we already got one.
Next question from the panel.
To ensure the continuation of the decision-making that resulted in the successful tenure of the current high school and central office administrators, what are your specific plans to recruit and retain qualified professionals in education with an eye to our local talent committed to Lawrence?
Mr. Green.
This is me? Okay. We're in receivership still, right? So as the school committee chairman, I would again move for the transition team, no more receivership, because I seem to remember that there's some sort of vague standard by which teachers and educators are evaluated in the school system right now. So they can be terminated basically for no reason. We don't like you. That's a problem. And until that gets addressed, I don't even think that I can competently or in good faith even make an attempt at this question.
Mr. Nevis.
I think it's disrespectful to say that the rest of us are guessing, maybe because we haven't had the position of mayor yet. We all in this city, and I'll speak for myself, I've been 35 years in this city, and I have been very much involved in all the things in this community and have seen the people suffering. I see the statistics, but I also see the people, the way they lived and they don't enjoy. Definitely what we have seen in the last, let me not say 8 years, but in the last 20 years, there's been lack of planning in all aspects, housing, education. That's why we have been more than once in receivership in the school system. Am I right? All right? Okay? So the schools, we need to get professionals, but to make it attractive for them to be here, we need to have a beautiful Lawrence, one that is attractive. It's a beautiful people, beautiful place, but we need to put it together and reshape it so that it can be attractive for those professionals to come and work and help our youth and children. Thank you.
I apologize. Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Repeat the question one more time, Naomi.
Sorry. Go ahead. Okay. To ensure the continuation of the decision-making that resulted in the successful tenure of the current high school and central office administrator, what are your specific plans to recruit and retain qualified professionals in education with an eye towards local talent committed to Lawrence?
I would say I would, provide them with a focus on providing them with a safe community, a welcoming community, and a community where there's job growth. I think if we can provide incentives to move into this city, I think that will help retain and attract the professionals that we need.
Mr. Mayor, a minute two.
I'm proud to say that I was endorsed by the teachers union here in the city of Lawrence. And I think it's because they see the leadership that I bring to it. I think you could put some money towards first-time home buyer programs to make sure that they could stay. And you got to pay them more. You just got to pay them more. Teachers are working more in Lawrence than they ever have before, and they should be paid in the manner they should be. But I'm going to stop there on that answer because I got to go back to the rent. I got to go back to this piece and just say, we put a proposal on the table. Let us go into your apartments and inspect them every 3 years. You just got to register your apartment. And if you do that, I'm going to hold your taxes steady. Even though people say that rents are high because taxes are high, that's absolutely not true. But you know what? As City Council President, Councilor Maldonado, he doesn't know. We don't want you to inspect people's apartments every 3 years. Just make sure that the plugs are correctly put in, that the windows are correctly put in, that the porches are correctly put in. Why? Because he's got an invested interest in that. And that's okay, but the rest of us are living in a place where rents are high, and I think everywhere, including Mr. Maldonado's properties, and then the quality is awful. So the question is, what can we do without rent control? We can absolutely say, hey, we're going to keep taxes at this level if you keep rents at this other level. We could do that. It's not rent control.
That's about 1 minute, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Maldonado, 1 minute.
We already have a system in place with a check and balance for property owners. They have to apply for a permit, for an occupancy permit that makes sure that the apartments meet the required standards. One of the landlords that charge far less rent in the city is me. And obviously there's another one by the name of Don Miner who owns about 300 units, and him and I probably charge less rent than anybody else. But nevertheless, that is not the subject. So I do live by example. When I charge $950 for a 2-bedroom apartment with heat included, that is a damn good rent. But the fact of the matter is that we have to create a middle class in our city and entice them to come in, not on the back of the pole. We have to create a balance. We cannot push the poor people out at the expense of the middle class. Simple.
That's about 1 minute. Okay. One more question from the panel, and then we'll transition to Vladimir again.
The city's recent rate of overdose death is 36% higher than the state average, according to the data compiled by the Federal Centers for Disease Control and the State Department of Public Health. How are you, or will you, respond to the city's opioid crisis?
Okay. Listen, starts to do Mr. Nieves.
We have a lot of organizations in this city that are supposed to be working in some of this. By the way, I have gone to some, I have said they have gone to City Hall asking for funding, for help, for a larger location. They cannot get it. But if we take the resources that we already have, and recognize them and work together, I think we can improve. Can we eliminate substance abuse in our community? Totally. Very difficult. But there's something that we can do if we work together with the churches, the community-based organizations, City Hall, and the entire community. But the community has to feel ownership. that is not owned by just a few people, but that we're all together in this problem and we're all together going to resolve it. And that's why you want Ruben Nieves as your preacher in the community, as your mayor, and as a leader trying to change the behavior and the image of the city. Thank you.
Mr. Mallett.
Well, it's true I may not be mayor of Lawrence, but I don't think anybody out here is mayor of Lawrence. And I think they, like me, can kind of look at the facts, statistics, and information. And one of the facts, as I had mentioned earlier, is that there was that recent fentanyl bust. And as I had mentioned earlier, there was an individual laughing about the number of times coming back into this country illegally. I think if we could end illegal immigration, it would reduce the drug overdoses that we're seeing in this city. You can have as many cops as you want in this city, but if you're not getting to the root of the problem, you're not going to fix it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, so again, I think that this is a very serious matter, and we can't be guessing. We just can't afford to be guessing. We are fighting the supply side of the opioid crisis hand and foot every day. They're doing everything they can, like saying double-digit arrests sometimes. We're doing that every day. We couldn't do it if we didn't have more police officers. But we need the federal government, the state government to put money into treatment. Treatment is the answer for this. You can see the kids that are on these corners, the people on these corners, they're not from our community. They're from other communities. So the state and the federal government, the state and the federal government has to play the same role they played during the crack epidemic. They have to provide treatment. I think you should make it mandatory. You steal, you go to jail, you go to welfare, you got to work. If you get busted buying drugs, you got to go away 6 months. Treatment, not jail. Treatment, forced treatment. And I will tell you, I will never give a job that can go to a family in Lawrence to a person who is homeless, because we have plenty of families that need those jobs. And I'm not going to take money from education for people who can't speak English, English is a second language, to give it money to people who are in those hard times. That's the role of the federal and state government. I'm going to do first-time home buyers program. I'm going to do education for people who speak Spanish and need to learn English. And I'm going to do this stuff for us, the people who are struggling in the middle class. The state and the federal government need to do that job. And I'm sorry, including immigration reform. We can't be doing immigration reform ourselves.
Mr. Maldonado, a minute to you about the opioid epidemic.
We know that drug addiction is a problem with mental, spiritual, and that there is an emptiness in those individuals who are using drugs. But we also know that our system is not working. If our system was working properly, we wouldn't have an increase in drug addiction. We need to stop, more than anything else, we need to stop the city of Lawrence from being used as a dumping ground, as the experiment base for every program, drug problems, for every drug addiction program that the state develops or create. We cannot afford anymore to have drug addiction treatment in our city. We need to ask all the cities and towns, our neighbors, to take part of that problem. There's no question that the treatment is not working, because if it was working, we wouldn't have so many drug addicts in our city.
Mr. Green.
Okay, so how are we going to address this? Education first. We're going to start with the kids. We're going to just pump up DARE. We're going to utilize some of the community resources that we already have in the schools doing that education. Prevention, that's where we're going to start. Then we're going to do enforcement, right? I don't want to see double-digit arrests, because you know what that tells me? That's a problem. That means people aren't learning and responding to the enforcement. Yeah, we go to jail, we're right back out there, where somebody else is, Treatment detox, yep, we need to do that, but we need something else. We need some sort of long-term rehabilitation to reintegrate people that have been living horribly, slowly committing suicide for a very long time. Some of the people that were out there when I was a rookie, and you don't know their names. So how am I gonna fight it? I'll tell you one thing, unlike the mayor, I'm not gonna chase a car from West Lawrence all the way over to East Lawrence only to cause 3 people to be arrested for an empty bag of heroin. Yeah, I said it. We can get the report and look at it. And he refused to be named as a witness. So yeah, I know what needs to be done, and I don't want to see anybody taking baths
about a
in
minute,
Away
Mr. Good.
and Blue Label.
Can we invite Vladimir back to the stage to ask his second question? Also, after this, we're going to do a community question. Like I said, lots of them coming in. Keep them coming. We're aggregating similar questions. So we'll ask one now, we'll ask another one later, and if time permits, we can get more in. Vladimir.
My second question is, what plans do you have to attract young professionals who grew up in Lawrence and went to college to come back and work in the city?
Did you get that question? Plans to, you got it? Okay. Starts with you.
Well, being a young professional myself, I think one of the greatest things about this city is the opportunity to own property. You can't find property at the rates that you can find them in this city, and I think that's one of the best things about this city. It makes it accessible for Americans to, buy a house. And I think we need to market that. And we need to market also the community as well. It's a good community. I think we have a lot of hardworking individuals here and a lot of good individuals. I've lived here for 13 years, and I've had, fortunately, a good experience on the whole. And we need to market the positives.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep. A few years back, I was a young professional, and I thought what it would take for me to stay in Lawrence, and there was housing and jobs. It's a great place to live if you grew up here, and you like to spend your weekends and your summers here. Semana Hispana, the Feast of the Three Saints, all these things that are great about our community. But if you can't find a place to live, and you can't find a job, or you got to commute 2 hours to a job, it's a problem. So we've been focusing on regional economic development, making sure that jobs come not only to Lawrence, but everywhere it can come to near Lawrence, so folks can have a place to live. And yeah, we're doing housing too. And not just housing for people who live below the poverty line. You gotta make affordable housing for folks who are making middle class wages. And we're doing that. Every day, we figure out how can we keep Lawrence kids in Lawrence, because they're our biggest resources. Now, I tell you, we fight with developers all the time to make sure that you're not just doing low-income housing for people underneath the poverty line, but you're doing stuff that can reach kids who came from college, who have a huge college debt, and want to stay in our community and make a difference. I had that experience. I know how to replicate it. No one else here has that experience.
Mr. Maldonado.
If we ask our youngsters to educate themselves and come back to live in the city, we must provide the atmosphere that is appropriate for them. Our city has a tremendous potential. Our city is a beautiful city that can provide the environment for people to grow. But there is a problem. If we ask our youngsters to educate themselves, but then when they apply for jobs in the city and they don't get it even though they are qualified because somebody else was chosen not based on qualifications but based on political gains, then we are not creating the proper atmosphere.
Thank you. Mr. Green.
So the first question I have is well, you know what? I don't even have any idea. I don't. Because I haven't had too many conversations with too many young professionals that are interested in moving into Lawrence. And can you really blame them? I'm running because I'm not satisfied with the conditions in this city, right? My campaign has been pretty much one-dimensional. You're not going to attract young professionals or retain the young professionals that we have here in this building, as well as in the other schools that we have in the city. Why? What do they value? You want to invest in a property, come home, find your property the same way that you left it, send your children to the park in safety and security. Look, we can dream all we want. I'll build a team and let them dream. My first priority is set that foundation so someone else can pick up and build on it, a secure, strong foundation for our future.
Mr. Nieves.
I used to work as a psychotherapist with Jose. Jose had an addiction problem for many years. I was happy when I saw him a few weeks ago, and he told me, Ruben, I'm clean. For 9 years, I'm clean. Emotionally, I gave him a hug because the work that each one of us does at the end gives some results, and we have to keep going. E for All is a program where I was a mentor, and I have seen, I was happy when this girl told me, I'm already billing $5,000 a month. That is success. Socrates de la Cruz, the Boys Club Boy of the Year, it's an attorney practicing, and a lot of other people are already in the city doing that. We must continue making this city attractive for professionals to stay, and the way to do that is giving participation and all of us celebrating the success of each other. And although we have different experiences, we do have experiences, and we have to respect the experiences of each other and keep working together and celebrating our successes. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a question that came from multiple different community members via Twitter and the other app. Mayor, it starts with you. You've got a minute. Winter is coming. The bridge encampments are closed and the shelters are full. What is your plan to address the homelessness issue here in the city?
We've been doing this 4 years, and the first year we came in, and the woman who runs the shelter in North Lawrence, the Good Shepherd Center, said to me, we're concerned that it's going to be so cold that people are going to freeze. So we had a conversation with priests and pastors, and we try to start training folks to take people in during the wintertime. We're going to do the best we can like we did last year, and we didn't lose anybody last year. The reality is that there are places for people to go that aren't in our community. But we got to ask ourselves this question. What is enough? What is enough? How do we answer this problem with our own resources instead of going to parks and schools? How do we fix this problem? So we will be continuing to train folks to make sure that they're prepared to take people into churches and to make the one shelter we have good and sturdy and well used, and processing people to Lowell and other shelters. But I think if you looked at our community and you asked them, do you want more shelters here? I'm not sure that the answer is going to be yes. We're good Christians, good
That's
Catholics,
about 1 minute.
and we're going to do the best we can like we did the last 3 years.
Thank you. Mr. Maldonado, 1 minute to you.
We have a homeless coordinator that was hired to help with that particular problem. Yet, we know less now than we ever knew anything about our homeless. We have no idea. We have a person that is probably sitting in an office coordinating, but we don't have any knowledge about who these people are, where they come from, and how we can ask other cities and towns to help with the situation, to take them back and deal with the problem that they had to deal with in the first place and not send them here. So we need to work the way that it's supposed to be. We need to identify the individuals, find out what their problems are, how we can help them. Do they have a drug problem? Can we send them to a rehab center? Do they need an apartment? Do they need counseling? We need to find out who they are. And so far, we have failed to do that even though we have a homeless coordinator.
Mr. Green.
So one thing that I think that it's important to remember is that each candidate has different skill sets and different levels of expertise in different areas. And I'm definitely going to be playing catch up in some areas. But this single most important area, everybody up here is playing catch up to me. I do not need to ask them what their problems are. I've already engaged them. I've done it for 12 years. I know who the true homeless people are that are down on hard times. I know who those caught in addiction are. I know that we've got some addicts that are predatory that are down there taking advantage of the other ones that are caught in addiction. I know what the problem is. I know how to fight it. You know what? One last thing, and this is going to show you how I know what I'm talking about. New England has this phenomenon. It's called New England weather. Anybody hear of that? And the homeless people know very well what winter smells like. And you're going to watch our numbers get cut more than in half. That's the time we need to get out there. That's the time maybe the homeless coordinator should take some notes and get out there and find out who really is hard up.
Mr. Nieves?
See, with homeless is the same as with education and with jobs and with substance abuse and everything. First, we have to think ahead, but long time ago. Second, be creative. Third, have an inventory of the resources we have, not only within the city, but in the region. Lawrence first is my slogan, but as I said before, we have to look at what is available in the region and then find out what are the partnerships that we can establish. By the way, all the jobs that we need cannot be created in City Hall. It has to be created in other companies, but they don't have to be located in Lawrence. They can be in other places. If we establish partnerships in the greater Lawrence or the Merrimack Valley, we can do wonderful. But it is important, it doesn't matter if we create a 501c3 to deal with these problems, there has to be an immediate solution for winter, which is coming, and for all the needs of this community, because we have been waiting too long.
Thank you. Mr. Mountain.
Well, you know, it's a sad time that we live in when it's discussed that there's a surplus in this city. And at the same time, we're talking about homelessness and not having enough shelter for them. I may not have as much experience as Mr. Green, and I do respect him. But I did speak with a couple of homeless individuals, and what they did tell me is there is only one shelter. And they did get kicked out of Tent City, and they don't have a place to live, and it is cold. You know, these people are humans. And if we have money, we're sitting on a surplus, and we know this, and we're not building another shelter for them, that's inhumane, I think. And I will put an end to that. Paul Mallett for mayor.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move this along. I'm gonna ask Keith to ask this next question, and we're gonna do lightning round. Keith, is it okay if I ask the candidates to respond with a single word to this question?
I think it'd be appropriate.
Okay, all right, one word answer to this next question. Catch up on time here.
Can I have more than one word to ask the question?
Yeah, please go for it.
A proposal to require city workers to live in Lawrence has been stuck in the city council for longer than a year, where it's been sitting there, despite the fact that the mayor said he supports it or in one form or another. The city council has endorsed it, and city residents have voted by a margin of 2-1 to put a residency requirement in place. Do you support a residency requirement? Should people working for the city be required to live in the city?
Starts with you, Mr. Maldonado. One word answer.
I was the author of the residence requirement ordinance in the city.
One word, Mr. Maldonado. Yes or no?
Yes, I do support it heartily.
Thank you. Mr. Green?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Can you repeat it? I'm sorry, it was just not clear.
Repeat the question and speak into the mic for people
Sure,
on
I'm
the
sorry.
TV too.
I'll just ask the heart of it. Should people who live in the city, should people who work for the city of Lawrence be required to live in the city?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Mayor. Okay. Yes, across the board. Thank you. Moving forward, Elsa.
How can you, as the mayor, improve the city's image?
Starts with you, Mr. Green.
I can lead us. I can lead us. You know what? I'm not going to improve this city's image. And if you believe that any one of us can or will, wake up. We, together, even all of you wonderful people in Rivera shirts, we have to work together at some point. And we're going to be the ones. We're going to be the ones that say, hey, you know what? We've been on these two separate sides, because that's one of the things, division defines our city. And if we could say, yep, you know what? I really don't even like you. But for the benefit of our city, we are going to come together and work together. It's what needs to be done. I was a cop for 12 years. You think we like all of each other? We don't. But I'll tell you what, I got sprayed in the face with some pepper spray, and one of the guys that absolutely disagrees passionately with me was part of a wall defending me and another guy that also got sprayed. Because that's our character, and that's what I bring to this. It's never personal, it's always business.
Mr. Nieves.
The image of the city has two aspects. One is how do we see ourselves, and the other is how people see us. The media has taken care of promoting Lawrence as trouble, teenage pregnancy, car theft, and for the last 30, 40 years. It's time that we start doing what we have to do, but City Hall has a responsibility. When we look at how can we improve our image, we have to mirror ourselves with other communities and see what they are doing to improve the image and what can we do. I have to tell you that when you give participation to the people and they don't feel strangers, for example, I would open City Hall one day a week, no tie for the mayor, okay, so that the people will feel part of City Hall and come in and participate when City Hall is yours. And the city is yours, the city image is going to change.
Mr. Melton.
Well, I think when people think of the city, a couple things go through their mind. One of them being fires. Unfortunately, the fire department, we didn't renew the contract with the union. And there are a lot of things that they want, which aren't that unreasonable. One of the things that they want is just to have a building which, you know, meets some basic inspection levels. And I think that's one thing I would do. I definitely would address the fire union's needs and renew their contract with them, because I think when you do that, that can greatly decrease morale. And another thing too, perhaps even a bigger thing, unfortunately the city, like it what you not, I'm going to tell it like it is, as it is. Unfortunately, it's associated with a lot of people on welfare, and one thing I would do is I would work hard, get these people jobs, and get these people off welfare, and provide them dignity. Everybody wants to work, I believe, and everyone should, and they can. Paul Mallet for mayor.
Mr. Mayor, 1 minute to you.
It's not, you know, everybody wants to forget about what happened 4 years ago before I became mayor. But people would talk about Lawrence in real negative, hushed tones and think about us like we were North Korea. When you never hardly heard about us, but when you did, it was never anything good. And we've worked to change that around. We finally got people cheering for us. Everyone knows we have problems. Anyone can show you what our problems are. We know what our problems are. The question is, can we come together as a community to fix those? And we have come. So we have an urban renewal plan that helps us fix our downtown. That's why we've gotten more federal and state money, because they trust us with the money. They couldn't trust us with the money before. One of the first things I did becoming mayor is I made every department head takes an ethics course so that everyone was clear about what corruption is and what corruption isn't. What you see here, what you saw in the recall, is the results of fighting against City Hall. People who we fired, who shouldn't have been hired to begin with, who have no qualifications, people who weren't doing their jobs, people who had sweetheart deals, they sue us. These guys say, look at all the lawsuits. The reality is, what you see before you is like another example of what you do when you fight City Hall. And we've been fighting City Hall from the inside for 4 years, and that's why we have so many people against us. 8 people against us.
That's a minute, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Manuel.
I am a professional, and I live in the city of Lawrence. And I feel very proud that I live in the city of Lawrence. Let me tell you, I will never move out of the city, even though I have the financial resources to live anywhere. But I will never move out of the city of Lawrence because I feel very proud about my city. I feel very, very proud about the things that we can do, and I feel very proud about the future of the city of Lawrence. So if we change our image on how we feel about our own city, we are going to project a different image outside, and we are going to let people know that we are very proud of our city. So let's change our feelings about how we feel about Lawrence. How many of you feel proud to be a Lawrencean? How many of you do that? Okay? I feel very proud of being here. So let's change our own image. And that way we will start changing the image outside on how people feel about us.
We're going to jump back to the panelists, and the TV viewers are asking us to talk into the mic on the panelist side. So,
To talk into what?
yeah,
Like this?
just practicing for the Emmys next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Education and training are key in workforce development to train and retain talented people to meet employers' demand. What administrative practices would you support to foster an education and training, especially for young professionals and professional immigrants in the city?
Mr. Neves, this one's going to start with you.
Excellent, excellent. First of all, not only I have been teaching all my life, but do recognize that we will always be the same person except for the people we meet and the books that we read, and I read and study constantly. And if we keep learning and sharing with others, we could be very, very successful community. As an HR manager, I have also been a training manager and a safety manager, so I do know the eclectic needs of organizations and communities, and I would definitely be an advocate of working together, getting more training, getting more education. I'm proud again of the institutions that are doing it, that are participating, and I challenge this community, and we go one-to-one and telling you, prosper, get educated, and do better for yourself and your family. Thank you.
Well, I think with Amazon actually, considering bids in the state, I think that's something we need to take seriously, and I think we need to make sure that we have the necessary skills for that company. And we live in the 21st century. One of the skills that we need to make sure that our young individuals have is technological skills. I remember coming to my job, they were doing a lot of work, manual work, uploading things into an SFTP site, and having a background in computer programming, I had automated that, and I had worked a lot with the Oracle databases in my current job. This is the 21st century. Businesses are looking for people that are technologically savvy. We can get our youth to be technologically savvy, push more training in that area. We're going to build jobs. Paul Mallet for mayor.
So immediately becoming mayor, we did a brown bag on ESOL for adults. So currently we have English as a second language, more seats today for people who come to our community at whatever age, and they can learn English and get into the job market. Today there's more of those seats than there were before I became mayor. We focus on that every year. As part of the CDBG money, we give funds to community organizations to do that work. We also have to have more opportunities for education. So like I said, we talked about before, Regis is doing an extension so you can get your bachelor's degree here as well. But if you come from Dominican Republic or Guatemala or any other place and you have a set of credentials and you can't make those set of credentials work for you here, you have to start at ground zero. And so what we did is we went to the Dominican Republic with Northern Essex Community College and we set up a program to better assimilate professionals from other countries to bring their documents. If you were a doctor there, if you were an engineer there, and you can figure out, bring those documents here and get the credit for what you did there to get them here, that too will help. And we did that alongside the educational opportunities. Again, I gotta go back to vocational education. Try to get a plumber in this community. Try to get an electrician. It's a really hard thing to do. And we gotta get back to doing more vocational education as well.
Mr. Maldonado.
I don't want anybody to be fooled by the thinking or the idea that we don't have educated people in the city of Lawrence. We have a lot of professionals in the city of Lawrence. We do have a lot of professionals. We have architects, we have engineers, we have doctors. What we need to do is to create an atmosphere that is reasonable for them to stay. But again, as I mentioned before, we have the buildings, we have the educational system that we can provide additional education to those who have limited options. So we need to start new programs to educate our people. And we need to start using those individuals who have come from other countries who are already professionals in our city. We need to change the way we do things in the city and provide a better atmosphere for our professionals.
Mr. Green, finish with you.
Okay, I'm going to focus on workforce development. And what that is for me is, one, I'm going to hire somebody that's going to do this for me. I'm going to hire them. And they're going to find out who it is that needs to be supported, to be reinforced. Because we have a population, we don't know who they are exactly. We need to get some very specific demographic information as into who comprises this workforce that needs to be developed. And it exists. One of the things, just because it's the easiest and the most obvious, given the fact that we are an immigrant community and we see a steady influx of people with limited English language. Now, you may get tired of me harping on this. Yo hablo los dos idiomas, so I speak on authority with this. You have greater opportunity for anything and everything when you speak English. Language of business, language of money in this country. So what we need to do is we need to overcome that to maximize the earning potential of a workforce and then continue to develop them. Not reach, okay, now you're promoted to fries, stay there. No, negative. Work on buying your own franchise.
Thank you. Turn it back to the panelists. Joanna.
President Trump has threatened to cut off federal funding for law enforcement programs to the sanctuary cities. Lawrence is one of a handful of municipalities nationwide that are suing to block Trump from cutting off the funding. Do you support maintaining Lawrence's status as a sanctuary city?
Mr. Mallett, this one starts with you.
I don't support Lawrence as being a sanctuary city, and by doing so, I would ensure that federal funding would stay in this city.
Mr. Mayor.
I think the only person that thinks that Lawrence is a sanctuary city is the president and anyone who wants to politicize the issue. Lawrence is a Trust Act city, and the law that was passed by the city council, which I didn't initially agree with, basically just put into law something that we've always done. If you commit a crime, regardless of your immigration status, you went to jail. The secret of that no one wants to talk about is that the federal government, again, in failing to do their job, don't have enough people to go after criminals, even those that are undocumented. And so they want to leave it up to us to create these situations. So yeah, I support it as it currently stands because it's just what we've been doing forever. We don't stop people who are driving cars on their way to work and take their car and put them in jail because they're undocumented. We just don't do that. We got other things to do, like fight the opioid crime. So no, So yes, I support the current state.
Mr. Maldonado.
As it was mentioned, we want to make sure that people understand that we are not a sanctuary city. We approved the Trust Act, which I was one of the leaders in doing that. But let me say that I don't know how many of you heard yesterday that the Superior Court ruled that the federal government cannot take federal money away. They cannot take federal money away from cities that believe in the Trust Act or being sanctuary city. So we don't have to worry about that. And I believe that if it goes to the Superior Court, to the Supreme Court, that eventually the Supreme Court will upheld the lower court to the point that it will prohibit the federal government from taking money away from us. Again, I do support the Trust Act.
Mr. Green.
William Green does not support the Trust Act or sanctuary city or anything that resembles that. I think it's absolutely absurd. But here's the thing, right? The Trust Act is supposed to protect people that are doing the right thing. And while it may, all that it really does is it sends out a false message that a criminal element will be harbored. I'm not interested in hurting anyone that is not a criminal, that's undocumented. Let's help them out. Let's get them on the path to citizenship. But if you're a criminal and you like to hide and you hear about this Sanctuary City Trust Act idea, then you come to Lawrence. And I'm going to tell you right now, we knew several years ago that MS-13 was active in Lawrence. So people can deny it, but that's the reality. I'm not out to hurt anyone, but I'm out to protect everyone in this room.
Mr. Nieves.
You know, if the sign says 35 miles per hour and you go at 36 or 37, did you violate the law? Well, obviously, we're not in favor of criminals. And obviously, we need to clean the city from a bad element. However, the Trust Act is something that could do some protection, but we have to be careful how much we do as far as protecting those that are undesirable, that are not good to have in the community. However, we have a bigger problem, which is what the courts are doing. And as we said before, it doesn't matter if it's panhandling, if it is dealing with the illegal immigrants, or any other issue that we have, the courts have to work with the communities, and unfortunately that's beyond the 60 minutes that 60 seconds that I have to address that issue. We definitely need to pull together, respect each other, and do whatever the law allows, recognizing that the courts are protecting Trust Act right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is the last community question, and then we're going to turn it back one more from the panel. There's opportunity to promote Lawrence based on its proximity between 93 and 495. What plans do you have to take advantage of that proximity, specifically with regards to the movie theaters? How would you develop them? How would you get that project done and take advantage of Lawrence's unique proximity in the region?
So we had an opportunity to get behind a proposal to put 6 gas station stalls and a McDonald's over at the 1 through 6 side of the cinema. And we said no. We said no because far too many times developers come to our community and they say Lawrence should settle. They should settle for whatever we put in front of you. Some local investors will say, just give us the property without understanding what they're going to do with it, and you have to do something, and you have no idea what they can do with it, and then later down the line we regret what happens. And this administration has said no to any bad development that goes into those movie theaters. They want to put a U-Haul storage there. They want to put a Goodwill store there. Those things are our last pristine developable land. And because we said no to the gas station, we got a modern day, high-end pet hospital going into that area. They're going to also do a medical office building as well. And with the we may also even get at the end of that thing a Starbucks with a drive-thru. Now, are those things in and of themselves great things? No, because they're going to bring jobs with them. People are going to be able to go to work in those places. Let's say we're going to Starbucks says, I want to go to Starbucks.
That's about a minute, Mr. Mayor.
So we did. So by the way, so our track record on the theater should be clear. We said no to bad development, and we got a great development there now.
Mr. Maldonado.
In the last 4 years, we lost 5 good companies and we lost hundreds of jobs. What are we doing to reinforce those companies that are here? What are we doing to make sure that they don't leave our city? What are we doing to create new companies in our city rather than trying to entice other people to come in? We have the resources, we have the ideas from people that wants to create new companies in the city. So what do we need to do? Number one, we need to stop the exodus of the companies that we already have. We need to offer them incentives like we offer incentives to those new companies that we want them to come in. But more than that, we need to create a department that is going to entice people to create new companies here locally and help them to not only to incorporate, but also to put their ideas into effect and find financial resources for them to create their own companies. That way, we are going to create more jobs locally.
Would you,
Mr. Green, 1 minute too.
yes, would you mind repeating, just pick up from geographic location?
Absolutely. What plans do you have to take advantage of Lawrence's unique geographic location, specifically with regards to developing the movie theaters?
Okay, specifically with regards to developing the movie theaters, first, the geographic location is something that I've been thinking about for years. Everyone's here because of it. So, for the theaters, well, first, geographic location, this is a clue on how I'm going to get a police department. Okay? FEMA, MEMA, Homeland Security, where's the federal government spending its money? That's what's going to help us. Our geographic location and our just super ability to respond in time to a disaster or a potential disaster. We're going to sell Lawrence and that idea. But for the movie theater specifically, we need a mid-size entertainment venue, not a club. I want some place where local artists can come and put on a show. Something that's not going to sell out and people aren't going to, a 5,000 seat venue in Boston. How about a nice little cozy 2,500 seat spot that's not necessarily tied up in bureaucracy and government like this is a great facility, but how about something else that's private, that's going to turn a profit and be taxed?
Mr. Nevis.
I'm a realtor, a real estate broker, among other things. And years ago, I saw somebody that wanted to relocate to the Lawrence area because of the tunnel. There were needs for that. And in trying to talk to the administrations, it has been difficult because the doors are not open to listen the opinions of those that are talking with the people. However, it's a great location. I think we cannot resolve it tonight what to do with it. But yes, we definitely have to start looking at how do we become, how do you call that, like a Mecca or un faro, whatever lighthouse is called, something that Lawrence finally, because of those facilities, could be recognized as a beautiful place, and people come from everywhere and bring money, and then we create jobs and we prosper again. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mallett.
Those movie theaters are a great location. I think it'd be a great location for Amazon to set up shop there. That's what I do. I push for Amazon in that location. That's what I would do as mayor and get more jobs back in the city. Paul Mallett for mayor.
Okay, we're going to turn this one back over to Keith to round us out.
This is the last question.
Starts with
What is the last book you read?
starts with Mr. Maldonado. Last book that you read.
I'm sorry, what was it?
What was the last book that you read?
What was the last what?
Book that you read.
The last book that I read, Les Miserables.
Sorry?
Les Miserables.
The Art of War, I bought it, posted it on Facebook at the beginning of the campaign. That's the last one I read.
I have read books since I was a kid, Ogmandino, Napoleon Hill, and all the others. I have read several times the Bible. Think and Grow Rich, I was reading today, but also I read on a daily basis the Bible and newspaper. I read constantly, and I recommend it.
It.
I'm sorry, what?
It.
It. Mr. Mayor.
Do we still have 60 seconds on this question?
Yeah, you can have a whole 60 seconds if you want it.
So, I read the thank you for being late by Thomas Friedman, but here's what I want to go back to. The question on economic development, they were all guessing. Did you hear that? The stuttering and the unsecureness of it? This thing is not a game. The idea of what we put in those movie theaters is a really important question. How to get there, how do you get folks in mind? I don't, get the cart before the horse. There might be a picture soon of us standing in front of those things talking about Amazon. We are doing a regional application for Amazon. That's what we're doing. So it's not a joke that, I'm gonna hire somebody to do this work. The exodus of old world industry is gonna continue to happen. They won't tell you that. They just wanna say, Holotech left and Lawrence Pumps left. Lawrence Pumps used to make the gears for the oil industry. We are no longer building oil refineries. So people can make you scared that because Holotech left, and by the way, anybody would tell you that Holotech would have been here this long, 20 years ago, it would have been a guess. So yeah, things moving out. But they're not talking to you about the jobs that 3D Core and Everett Mills is having the $10 million in New Balance invested in new jobs in Lawrence. That's what we're doing today. And if you give me another vote, another 4 years, we'll continue to do that.
Okay. The last word, Mayor Rivera. We're going to give each candidate 30 seconds to sum us up, to conclude us, to pitch you for their vote. We're going to start this one with Mr. Green. 30 seconds.
Okay, I think that everybody's laid out their positions, some with greater or lesser levels of clarity. Again, I've got law enforcement experience. And one of the things that I will address that the mayor is saying that we're guessing, for me, it's been difficult to get access to a lot of information from City Hall. So a lot of what we're doing is speculative. We're online and we're saying, this is what I'd like to do. We've never been mayor, many of us, so we're speculating and we're gonna need help. But I'm not afraid to say, no, you know what, I need some assistance with this, and I do know where my strengths are, safe city.
Mr. Nieves.
Modesto Maldonado was at the meeting in 1982 when Julio Meran said, prepare yourself, you're going to be the first Hispanic mayor of the city of Lawrence. For 35 years, I have been contributing to this city, even when I have not had the position. There is a reason why Ruben Nieves is running now for mayor, and it's because we need change. Vote for Ruben Nieves and bring about change to the city, a better future for Lawrence or for all of us. Thank you.
Mr. Mallett.
I take offense with the speculation comments. I don't speculate, I research. I'm very methodological. And that's exactly how I'm going to approach jobs in this city. Thank you, everyone. Vote for Paul Mallett for mayor. He will hammer out groundbreaking solutions for Lawrence.
Mr. Mayor.
4 years ago, we started a campaign to change the city of Lawrence, and we've spent 4 years rebuilding our public safety departments and going after people who weren't working in City Hall, bad police officers, you name it, sweetheart deals. And this is the fruit of that effort. People have come out against us to run for mayor because they want to go back to the old days where it didn't matter if you were qualified, it didn't matter if you did your job as a police officer, it didn't matter because no one held you accountable. So for 4 years we've held people accountable. We've played by the rules, and guess what that has yielded? It has yielded lawsuits and fights against us because they don't want Lawrence to change. They don't want Lawrence to change, and we have to change if we want a better Lawrence for our city and our families. And that's what I want, and if you could vote for Dan Rivera on September 26th, we will have make Lawrence better.
You get your vote 30 seconds. Mr. Maldonado, wrap
Most
us up.
of you already know my qualifications, but I want to point out something. 4 years ago, the mayor gave himself another title, CEO. That means that you and I are stockholders. So on September 26th, you and I are going to hold a meeting as stockholders. We have to make the one and only decision. We have to fire our CEO.
Okay. Before we wrap up, I want to give a huge round of applause to our panelists. You did a great job. Thank you. I want to thank the sponsors tonight, Northern Essex, Eagle Tribune, Lawrence Partnership, all working in collaboration to make sure this information is available to y'all as you're making your decisions on the 26th. I want to make sure to thank the candidates. It's hot up here. Those were hard questions. They did not know they were coming. To run for this position, you really have to be versed in a lot of different issues, and you got to knock on a lot of doors, and you got to put a lot of time and make a lot of sacrifice. Thank you to all of you for doing that on behalf of the city.
Thank you.
Okay, they did their work. Now the work is yours. You have to vote. You have to vote. You have to get your friends to vote. You have to get your families to vote. We need to get people to the polls. September 26th. Keep doing your homework. Have a great night.